What is up, YouTube? Welcome to another guide. This is actually my first Mongol guide. As some of you long-time watchers of my stream may have noticed, is I've picked up and started playing Mongols a lot more. It was actually a really big reason as to how I managed to qualify into the Golden League. For those of you not aware of what the Golden League is, it is a tournament that is coming up, and it is a $125,000 prize pool. We actually managed to get qualified, which I was super stoked about. So there's 64 positions that were available. 20 of them were through ladder ranking, 20 through tournament ranking, and then there was 20 through qualifying, as well as 4 invitational. And we managed to get through the first round of qualifiers. We actually didn't even drop a game, which I was so happy about. We came up against some solo players as well. And yeah, Mongols was one of those big reasons, so I'm here to teach you guys how you can kind of improve your own Mongol play. If you are looking for a written version of this guide, I have one in my Discord, so if you aren't interested in getting your hands on that, then click on the link in the description, and there should be an image written version of that in the build orders channel, so don't forget to check that out, and enjoy the build order, guys. Alright, so first things first, as the Mongols, you want to instantly pop your Khan arrow speed, and the quickest way I like to move all of my villagers, Khan and TC at the same time is by just dragging across all of them, clicking them to the same area, and then clicking Q, which will automatically trigger the maneuver arrow for the Khan. The reason we want to do this at the start is it speeds up the TC, so it can get to the destination quicker, and it can also start producing builds that slight bit quicker. So what we want to do after we move everything is we want to send 5 to the wood close to where the TC is going to be placed, and then we send 1 guy to the Obu. And as soon as the TC is built, we'll have 5 chopping wood, 1 building the Obu, and then new vills will come to food. Once the villager has actually built the Obu, he's going to come across to food as well. And in this build, we are going for an early pasture, which is why we have 5 on wood. I also chose a spawn where we had to build a gur for the gold, because, I mean, a lot of the time you're not going to have a gold right under your TC, but the only difference then is you're going to be chopping less wood for a gur, or you could chop for an extra pasture, but typically I like to age faster than going for that extra greed. So our pasture is going on the Ovu. It actually increases the spawn rate of sheep, I think, by 50%. I could be wrong there, but it's definitely worth having on the Uvu, as long as it's not like way too far away from your TC. Honestly, this is the ideal spawn, personally, for me as Mongols. I prefer to have my gold exposed behind my base than my Ovu. And that's just because then you can't have your double production denied as easily as what is if your Ovu was back here. But so we've chopped 150 wood for the pasture, 100 wood for the gur, and then we're bringing everything onto food except for 1 who's going to build the gur, and then the next 2 new vills are going to come out onto gold as well. So we'll have 9, 3, and then we'll send a few more vills to food here. Our Khan is just going around our base, obviously, to capture sheep. Personally, I like going up the middle and then looping all the way around. There's a chance you'll spot your enemy in the middle, and if they have sheep as well, you can just snipe their sheep with your Khan. It's pretty toxic, but in competitive games, it's definitely worth doing, denying your opponent's sheep. Also like to use the maneuver arrow whenever it's up with the Khan, just so I can scout that little bit quicker. So we got 3 on gold, 9 on wood food initially, and then our new builds are coming across to food as well. Keep in mind, with the Khan, you can afford to, you know, scout around your base for longer periods of time without running out of sheep, because you've got your pasture producing sheep. So that's really handy. And just to preface what we're going to be doing later on in this build, basically this version is not making any units in Feudal, and this is going to depend heavily on what you scout, what civ your opponent is, etc, etc. I will run through that in a bit more depth as we kind of go throughout this game. So once you have 11 on food here, you want to drop new vills off to wood, force drop off so you can get that age up in. As you can see, it's very tight with the macro. I like to age up with 4 vills here, keep 5 on food, keep the 3 on gold, and send new vills to wood, and the excess guys from food onto wood as well. So at this stage of the game, you're obviously going to be aging up later than your opponent, considering you had to chop 150 wood for the pasture and also 100 wood for the gur. So at this stage, as soon as you start aging, you should think in the back of your mind, okay, I need to go scout my opponent, see how quickly he's aging up, see what military he's going to be dropping, and you can also annoy his vills with the Khan. Obviously, there's no opponent in this game, but you should be as active as possible with your Khan, harassing your opponent's villages. So all new vills are still coming to wood here. We're banking up stone, obviously, from the Ovu. And as soon as we hit that 100 wood, I like to put a tower on my gold. And this is going to prevent any early pressure, you know, idling your gold villages. Another option is to go pasture. If you see your opponent is aging up really late, you could add in another pasture now and go for the greedier approach. If you see they're making units or they're aging up quickly, or if they're aged up already, definitely drop down a tower as soon as possible. So we've gone 6 on wood now, and then we've got 3 on gold still, the rest on food, and these guys are going to come onto food as well. Khan's still scouting around. Ideally at this point you would have information on what your opponent's doing. So one rule of thumb for me personally, if I see my opponent is going like mass horsemen or something like that, that means that your, say for example, your gold's exposed or your over's exposed. That means you could be under threat in terms of being denied. So in that case, I would like to go horseman myself. You could also add in pikes as well if you'd like, but typically I'm just making the minimal amount of units in order to age up. If you see they only have like double stable or something like that, then you could go pikes yourself. But I like going stable because generally speaking, you want to be going knights in age 3 as well. So then that stable is also going to be used for later purposes as well. As you can see, I'm dropping a second tower and a pasture. So I've gone for the second tower next. And the reason I'm going second tower is to defend the Ovu, defend woodline, so I'm not under any threat. Got arrow slits on the back one. You could look at getting arrow slits here as well. But we've kept the 6 on wood with one guy building a tower and a pasture as well. We've gone 14 to food. And now we're sending new guys to gold. So we're going to send a total of 7 villagers across to gold here. And as you can see, the 2 pastures on top of the Ovu is plenty enough for sheep. I have brought extra sheep back, but generally speaking, two on an Ovu is going to be plenty to get you up to castle. It just might be if you don't find many sheep and at later stages, you're probably going to need to add pastures sooner rather than later. But at this stage, we're assuming he's gone like archers or something like that. Or like 1 stable horseman, which typically you could defend with 1 tower or maybe 2. If you do see like big pressure coming out, you're like, oh god, he's massing up a lot of units right now. I would drop a second tower on your gold mine, as that's like the exposed resource point. This should be pretty safe. I'm preemptively building a stable here, as soon as we get to castle, we're going to be building knights. But honestly, in retrospect, I could have just added another pasture now and then added a stable a little bit later. So we're getting towards the resources to age. We have the 7 on gold now, 14 on food. And we're going to send new guys to wood. So typically what I like to do in castle age, and this is going to vary from game to game depending on what you scout your opponent's making. If you see your opponent is full archers and spears or something like that, go men at arms. Maybe go 1 stable for knights and then the rest like men at arms in the early castle. The 1 stable for knights so you can raid your opponent while you're also attacking the main army, and the men at arms to take out, you know, longbows, pikes. So what I like to do as soon as I get up as well, if I'm not under huge pressure, I'll be putting down a monastery or a prayer tent as they're called for Mongols, so I can instantly go out and start getting the relics. So I'm aging now with 8 villages. You can do 8 to 10. Typically I like 8 if you're not under a huge amount of pressure, just because it's going to allow you to get more resources to instantly spam out more knights. Also get your prayer tent, as well as monks coming out as well. So we're going for a second stable here. Again, this is going to depend on the game you're in. I probably could have just gone and pasture into stable here. But one thing I like to do now, if you're not under pressure once again, is go out. Actually, if you're not being rammed in, I still like to do this. I like to go out on the map and start placing towers. Now, the ideal places where I want to put towers is where the YAM network is going to affect my units. If you didn't know, anywhere within a tower range, if your units enter that radius, they'll get a speed boost for 10 seconds. So if you've got that on the middle of the map, that's going to help you have that speed boost the whole time while you're moving across and also fighting and whatnot. So I like to sneak out onto the map, put some towers down, but I also like to make sure they're near relics. So in case my scholar or I forget what the Mongol one is called, if he's trying to get run down by like 1 or 2 units, the tower's there to protect it. Also gives you a speed boost. And I like to get garrison inside there in case it is under a lot of pressure. As you can see, I've moved out to the middle here. Keep in mind, at this stage, we added a bunch more into food. Now we're putting a few more in gold. We're moving the step redoubt across as soon as you age up. You want to move this across to your gold mine, and as soon as that's built, you pack up this bad boy and you bring him over to the wood line. As you can see, like there's a lot of distance chopping here. But as soon as you age up, you want to double produce knights, as I did here. You can see there's a double batch there. And personally, this is just my personal preference. Not everyone does it. I like to go double shaman. So as you might see, like Mongol players go around the map and like place their prayer tent wherever your shamans are. And having 2 out instantly just allows you to pick up those relics so much quicker. So as soon as these pop, we're moving the monastery out towards the middle of the relics here, and our shamans are going to go out and pick those up. We're continuing to produce lancers at this stage. I also like to get an early wheelbarrow as soon as you hit castle here. You know, to increase the efficiency of your villages, chopping wood, dropping off sheep and gold, all of that stuff. That on top of the yam makes a really strong eco. And one thing as well to be doing at this stage is harassing with your Khan as well. So I put an extra few on food, and then I put an extra few on gold, and now I'm tasking all out to wood. Now, let's just pause here for a sec. So, one mistake that I made in the early days playing Mongols, and it happens so often, like I see Mongol players floating so many resources just because they never put down the production to, you know, afford all of the units to make, because people just rely on double production, and the step redoubt is an insane eco boost when you get up. So a lot of people end up just floating a lot. So what I like to do once I have enough to like double produce knights here is just put like every new vill on wood so that you can afford the military production to spend all your other resources. One other thing I like to do with Mongols, and you'll probably see it as I go through here, is once you start getting that excess gold from all the relics, from the step redoubt, is I like to get all my eco upgrades. So right now, we're continuously producing knights here, and what we're doing with these knights, why I like to go knights, is 2 reasons. One is knights will keep your opponent in their base, especially if they are not castle at that stage. They don't want to be like annoyed by constant knight raids. And what that allows you to do is it allows your vill to have the space to go out and build towers. It also gives you room for your shamans to go out and collect all the relics. And then I like to transition into a more, you know, siege-oriented army. As you know, Mongols from the blacksmith, they get improved siege engineering, which allows them to build mangonels, trebuchet, and springolds on the field. So I like to transition to crossbow. Most of the time your opponent is going to make some sort of armored unit. Crossbow are just way better than archers in general as well. Archers are very kind of weak in Castle Age unless they're going like pure archer pike, which is not really that common. So I'm with this one vill that I sent out during transition. He's continuously running around the map, building towers around relic points and around sacred site points, and also giving vision of your opponent's base. So this is one thing that really needs to be utilized as the Mongols, is building towers all around the map, getting your upgrades on them as well, so they're scared to push out. And it also allows you to know if they're going to come raid you, and that gives you the opportunity to do a big counter raid or a big counter push, because you know like their units are out of position, or you can see that they've got monks out on the map trying to collect relics, so you can go and snipe those. It's really powerful as the Mongols, especially considering it gives you Yam network. It also allows you to disengage in armies a lot easier than any other civ would, because you've got that speed bonus. So something I highly recommend as the Mongols when you hit castle and you've stabilized at your base is go out and tower like the entire map. And that's why it's also beneficial to have start rallying a lot more to wood as well. It's around this stage I also like to get my ecotechs once I start getting that excess gold from the relics, as well as the step out. We'll start getting those in. As you can see, horticulture. And this whole time I've been speaking, since I mentioned rallying to wood, I haven't stopped rallying to wood. Now there is other strategies with Mongols where you put a lot on gold and then you market trade to get a second TC. But I think this is the most reliable opening or castle kind of strategy that you can have. Obviously, once you kind of get this down, you'll realize that knights aren't the answer in every situation. Also the same with crossbows. Sometimes you'll need a mixed men-at-arms if they're going, like I said, pure pike and like archers of some sort. Like men-at-arms just beat both those things, whereas lancers get countered pretty hard by pikes. But I always, as Mongols, like to add in lancers, because like I said before, you'll have vision of when they're moving out and whatnot, and that's when you can strike with your lancers, go raid them, and it just feels really hard as the opponent to move out of their base, which is quite often why you see big night wars in Mongol versus most civs. Is just for that reason. Like, you don't want to have to deal with the raids and try and push out at the same time, dealing with spring-old towers, all of that jazz. So generally speaking, this approach will give you a lot of map control and vision throughout the map, and it just allows you to get like this crazy passive in gold income on top of the step out. So I'm still on wood, still sending guys to wood. It's allowing me to drop more and more military buildings. As you can see, I got advanced siege engineering, build my first mangonel on the field, which is again heavy in wood. Right now we don't really need to put more guys on gold, and it's pretty crazy to think you can produce all of this with just 9 guys on gold. It's just the power of the steppered out, along with all the relics and sacred sites that you're usually going to be able to get with this strategy. Make sure you don't do what I do in this game and rebuild the OVU as soon as it runs out. I think I was a little bit delayed with this. And typically at this stage of the game, I don't double produce units at all. Unless I somehow end up with a crazy excess of stone, I like to use it on all my emplacements on my springolds. So these, on my outposts, sorry. So I like to get springold emplacements and put it all around their base. Just means they can't sneak out without taking damage and being seen as well. It also gives you great fallback onto more defensive structures. Like if you end up start losing a fight, you can run back. Usually you'll be in sight of Yam network, run back to your towers, speed back there, and you'll have like maybe 1, 2, 3 towers or something like that, depending on the situation of the game. And at this stage we've got tier 1 upgrades on every ecotech. We've never been running out of gold as well because we have all the relics. Once you get all the relics and you've been moving your prayer tent around, bring it back to your base. Also, obviously there's no enemy in this game, but always be active with your Khan. Don't forget to use the scouting falcon so you can keep vision on a certain area for a little bit of time. And just keep moving around. If you lose the building outpost, send another one out. Just keep doing it so you know everything that your opponent's doing, and you can make appropriate decisions based on that. Also, at this stage of the game, depending on how many sheep you found, you want to be adding in more pastures. I do that in a second here because I'm like, okay, I'm starting to rally more on food here. I really need to consider adding in more pastures. When I had like 17 vills on food, it was okay, but now that we have like 22, and that's going to keep increasing, we need to add in more pastures so we don't run out. Not only that, is these pastures aren't on the OVU anymore. Luckily I have one right here, so you could just move them out here. But if your second stone mine is quite exposed, I recommend just keeping your pastures at home, just so they can't die. They're pretty expensive, right? 150 food, 150 wood per pop. So, and they're also really squishy, so if your opponent gets on top of those, they're pretty much dead straight away. And at this stage, I've got a full Lancer crossbow composition, but like I said, if they've got a lot of spears, which crossbow aren't going to melt as cost efficiently as men-at-arms, then I would recommend adding in men-at-arms to kind of block it a bit more. That's the build order, guys. Hopefully you found this insightful and helpful. Also, another thing I forgot to mention, keep getting your blacksmith techs. I had +2 attack in this example, but basically if you're fighting a lot, prioritize that, and then put the eco techs on behind that. But that's it, guys. Hopefully you found this helpful, and finally I released a Mongol guide, right? I've actually been enjoying them quite a bit lately. They're very strong still consider them to be an S tier civ. So if you take this strategy and refine it on the ladder, I guarantee you'll be climbing a lot. But yeah, again, hopefully you found this helpful, guys, and enjoyed it. If you did enjoy the content, don't forget to like and subscribe for future guides, future videos, all that jazz, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.